Hi, Commissioner Esposito. I'm here.
Awesome. Let me see. Is Commissioner Rooks?
Yeah, I don't see Commissioner Rooks on quite yet, but let me touch base with him. I know he is going to join us, though.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Looks like we can get started. So yes, I want to welcome everyone to the Policy Committee meeting. I'm the Policy Committee Chair, Commissioner Ashley Esposito. And if you have not done so, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phone will be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Also, if you're not a board member, CEO, or staff, please turn off your video. So I will now read a roll call to identify who's on the call. Commissioner Sally?
Present.
Awesome, thank you. Commissioner Rooks?
Present.
Awesome. And I want to give a big welcome to Commissioner Rooks, who is our newly elected student commissioner, who's joining the policy committee for the first time.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And it looks like our first item is policy DIC, and we have a presentation from Chief Doherty and Chief Cox and a few others.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Mary Ann Cox, the Deputy Chief Financial Officer. I will be presenting this afternoon. I wanted to express greetings to the Board Policy Committee commissioners, any city schools, cabinet, and staff members attending, as well as our community partners. So I am presenting this information on behalf of the Chief Financial Officer, Chris Doherty. What I wanted to make very clear at the beginning of this is this is basically an administrative activity that is being done to comply with the board's instructions to convert our active board rules to board policies. That's what this is in a nutshell. So we will just go through the PowerPoint presentation, and we'll show you specifically where some of these items have been converted from the board rules to the board policies. It's my, okay, could we go to the next slide, please? Policy DIC revisions directly relate to priority 3, which is that city schools will have high quality modernized facilities and resources that support the success of students, educators, administrators, and staff. This policy deals directly with the resources that are available to city schools and what we do to protect those resources. So next slide. So the primary purpose of these revisions is to comply with the board instructions to convert active board rules into policies, into existing policies where appropriate, or have new ones if that would be appropriate. These particular revisions for the finance policy DIC will incorporate all 34 of the remaining financial board rules into this board policy and administrative regulation, and we will add an administrative regulation as well. So next slide, please. So the Office of Finance and the Office of Legal Counsel have been collaborating to ensure revisions are fully in compliance with recent updates to applicable law and accounting standards. So most of our board rule provisions are mandated by these legal requirements. We're specifically talking about GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standard Board requirements, GAAP, which is Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, and state law is very specific in what we may and may not, utilize in funding investments and such. So next slide. So we are incorporating a total of 34 board rules into this administrative into board policy DIC and the administrative regulation DICRA, and then we're adding another regulation DICRB. So you can see the breakout here. There's one board rule currently about petty cash funds. There's 24 about investments. There's one specific board rule about our annual audit compliances, and 8 board rules about asset capitalization. So these are all coming from current board rules. Next slide. There is a new administrative regulation is essentially taking a board rule and converting it to a separate administrative regulation, and that is regulation DICRB on petty cash. And you can see here that we're essentially converting the petty cash board rule 303.08 into this new administrative regulation DICRB. So petty cash is an area for review. So we just want to make sure that we have very specific rules and guidance concerning it. Next slide. So the category 2 were the board rules about investments. There were 24 board rules that will be carried over from board rules into investments. Cut and paste. That's all this is. We are not changing these. We are merely changing them from board rule to board policy and asking for board approval of that. So we essentially have cut and pasted the board rules into there. I'm sorry, are there any questions, or shall I wait till the end? Okay. I'm sorry then. So by law and accounting standards, basically our investments are limited to federal T-bills and other related instruments that minimize risk. Preservation of capital is the first component of our investment policy. So, of course, we recognize where our money comes from, and so there are limitations placed on the use of public funds, and we comply with the state laws in that regard. Then we do have specific listings of the board roles that go into investments, all 24 of them. And certainly, if anyone was interested, you could actually look up the board role, or we could provide an exhibit of all of them. But you can see by your review, by your own review, that we are merely cutting and pasting into the new environment. So we have category 2, which had 24. Then we have category 3. This is the rule about the annual audit. Currently, COVAR requires this, as well as generally accepted accounting principles, that you have an audit. And we also have a board rule now to be converted to a board policy. So it just says that each year the board will engage a certified public accounting firm to audit all funds of the board. That's, everything, the general fund, the special revenue fund, food and nutrition, and capital projects and debt service. And they also, at the same time, as part of this, our external auditors review the audit plan and programs used by internal auditors during out the year when they they conduct audits of some school activity funds and other programmatic activities in compliance with the board approved audit plan. Next slide, please. Category 4, these refer to the board rules about asset capitalization. There are 8 rules on asset capitalization, and to tell you, they're basically accounting methodologies. It says what gets capitalized, what the threshold is. And, we also capitalize sensitive equipment such as computers and laptops and printers and whiteboards, things like that. So we also have a lower capitalization threshold for our grants, which we comply with. There is a note that we want to emphasize that City Schools does not capitalize the real estate that's owned by the owned and entitled in the name of the mayor and city council. We capitalize the improvements, to the buildings or the equipment that we place in the buildings. So that is, but we do not capitalize the assets of the city. Next one. These are the 8 board rules that relate to the capitalization of our assets. These are generally very specific on like whether we do mid-month or full month. This is more tied to generally accepted accounting principles than anything else. So again, it's just these board rules were cut and pasted into the board policy, and they have all remained in effect all during this time. And so we will be compliant with them as board rules and as board policies. Next slide. This activity has been determined to be a tier 1 stakeholder engagement process, so that we will do the appropriate postings for the tier 1 requirement. So we'll post on the City Schools website for public feedback. And then we will also reach out to the Equity Advisory Committee and the Charter and Operator-led schools, PCAB, the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, and CCAC, the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. We'll also go to school operators and labor unions. We will request their input and we will respond to it. But I did want to emphasize that we do not have a lot of flexibility, in fact, very little, for changing of these, because they're already governed by GASB, GAAP, and state law. So next, the timeline. This is the policy committee presentation, and the dates for the first and second reader are still pending approval by the board. So we will proceed once we have the due date. So That is the last slide of the presentation, and I'm open to questions now, please.
Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully our calendars really, we're finalizing it now, so as soon as it's released, you'll have dates.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yeah, so I'll turn it over to the other commissioners to see if they have any questions.
Okay.
No questions from me.
Commissioner Sally?
I would add just one, just kind of comment and thought that came up for me is just thinking about like in the stakeholder engagement process, just given the importance of, our role as kind of in the fiscal oversight role that we have as governors. I'm curious because we have so much city funds that I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. There's a significant portion of our budget that comes from city funds. Are they included in any of the stakeholder outreach at any part of this process, Marianne?
They are not on the list that I was provided, but I can certainly look into that. I do understand what you're saying, and that you're saying we get probably, oh, maybe 20 to 25% of our revenue from the city of Baltimore, and the rest, of course, is mostly state. So you're asking if we would have input with them. I will follow up with the Office of Legal Counsel for any requirements like that. I will say that the city of Baltimore also adheres to the same investment type policies as we do. They too are governed by what is allowed or disallowed for governmental entities. So they follow the same GAAP and GASB and the state laws. But I certainly will follow up on that question. I understand what you're saying. We do not tie our remaining funds to a particular revenue source because we commingle our funds. But certainly they, in a gross amount, they have a certain share of the resources that are provided to city schools. So we will definitely research that further.
Okay, thanks, Marianne, for circling back with that. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely want to second that because I think what I see happen often, especially like with city council, is that they ask us questions and we play catch up rather than like proactively engaging them like throughout the process earlier rather than like it being reactive. Because like even from my experience, like I feel like the city council folks is somebody that we like regularly as community members interact with. And so it's like we're raising questions. They seem to be like the liaison with so many different agencies. So maybe us being proactive about reporting to them and getting their feedback will better equip them to answer questions like from community members.
All right, thank you. We will research that. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And so moving on to compliance reports, we have a compliance report on media relations. Is there any thoughts or feedback about that from the other commissioners?
I don't have any questions today.
No.
But I am thankful to the Office of Communication for assembling the report as usual and like making sure we have a thorough understanding of the types of things that come across comms.
Thank you kindly.
Awesome. Thank you. Next we have, a compliance report for policy JJJ, academic eligibility for extracurricular activities. And I'll open the floor for feedback from the other commissioners.
None on my end today.
None for me.
And none from me too. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
And our final compliance report is policy JIH, administrative searches and seizures.
The question I had on this particular report was thinking about the city's obligations, and I don't recall saying this one last year, so I forget if I'm orientated myself to this report, so I apologize. But just thinking a little bit more about the obligations that we have to ensure that we're upholding the civil rights of our students when it comes to search and seizure and our staff, and making sure that, you know, both our reporting duties are right, but at the same time, like the types of protections that need to be in place to ensure that illegal search and seizures don't occur. And how are you doing, Cora?
I'm on mute. Sorry, I had to come off mute. I'm well. How are you?
Good, I'm well. I'm well.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I think I heard what you were saying, but I want to give it back to you. So, what kind of guardrails do we have in place to just ensure that our students and staff, collectively, their civil rights are not being violated when we do our
That's right.
searches?
That's right. Yeah. And also making sure, like, from a transparency, secondarily, I guess the second part of the question I asked first is also thinking about, like, you know, how do we also uphold the sanctity of our duties around transparency? So how do you, like, strike the balance between those two things in city schools?
Okay. So I do know.
Cora, you're muted.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm sorry. It's just speaker muted. Okay. So I can't speak specifically to the civil rights portion. I know we do a great deal of training. So with the new portion of this report, it's focusing a lot more on the weapons detection portion of it and how we're doing training around that. So annually, we have training with our school leaders, staff members. We did in-person trainings to launch things, and then we do a caveat of virtual. It is a live, and then we do recorded sessions to go over the basic things like these are the things that lead to a search. These are the people that you need present before you conduct a search. These are the documents that you fill out. We link those things. We have them on our school safety support site. And so the big thing I think I'm hoping to answer your question is that it's continual reiteration, it's active engagement, and then it's active training to update them on the things that they need to do. Even though we have a good portion of staff members, school-based that aren't high turnover, the rules are constantly changing. And sometimes staff switch from elementary, middle to high school. So we make sure we try to do those periodically throughout the year and just oversaturate them with the resources so that they know that they have it. And then also the continued partnership that we have. Like, I see Sabri just came on camera. Her team do a lot of engagement and collaboration with our school leaders when we roll out these new things. So one is that they're not feeling like they're alone or they don't have a thought partner. And so that we can make sure that we're doing these implementations with fidelity. I hope that answers the portion of your question, but I really just want to like overemphasize the fact that like it is re-emphasis of the trainings, re-emphasis of the policy, and we really try to like just drill it in as much as we can and as many opportunities as we can through our monthly meetings and then our individualized training with our school principals, just on what the changes are and what are the key things that they need to be aware of when implementing these policies in schools.
I think that's helpful, and it may be in as you guys continue to evolve, like what this reporting looks like, is thinking through giving us a little bit more insight in terms of like where the greatest level of opportunities are for city schools in terms of sharing both what we're learning about how to continue to keep our schools safe, but at the same time, like really support the training needs that are out there to ensure that policies are implemented with fidelity, but yet our students and our staff are safe inside of our buildings. So I'd love to know just a little bit more about that in the future. And some trend data. Like, I mean, I appreciate, like, you know, you're sharing more about what you're seeing, like, which is important, but like at the same time, like, you know, what are we learning about our learning environments over time?
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
And
you.
I think,
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Cora.
oh no, I think that with, I don't want to say like an overhaul, but I think that with the new Evolve system, that we're just trying to look at things from a different lens. And I think it will give us that opportunity, as we did, you know, the pilot phase, but you know, this upcoming school year will be our like official kickoff, that it'll be wide range across the district. And I think it's going to create a very good learning opportunity for us to kind of see where those touch points are that we need to engage with our students and staffs, because we've mentioned this in other reports that we have. A lot of times the incidents that lead to things like this, children bringing weapons into our schools and things like that, they're external things. And it has not a great big deal of things to do with the students feeling safe inside of a school. It's getting from home to school. So we're trying to expand on how do we tap into that and give them the kind of support that we need. We're doing a lot of expansion with our city-based partners in the Office of Whole Child, and just trying to engage with our kids outside of the school buildings, tap into better opportunities to engage with them on the weekends, those summer breaks, spring breaks, and holidays and things like that, so that we can, as a district, have a more organic and realistic, you know, understanding of what our students need, and then also build that source of trust outside of the classroom. It can be with our district partners, our central office partners, as well as the people who are in school. So I think that this upcoming school year is really gonna, you'll see that more, because that's been in the forefront of our planning process and things that we're trying to work for over the summer.
Oh, great. Thanks, Cora. I appreciate that.
Oh, and I have a question. Well, first I'll go to Commissioner Rooks.
Nope, you're fine. No questions for me.
Okay. When it says the discovery method found by an administrator, is that, does that mean that it was found by a weapons detection? Because I heard y'all mention the system in the, like, previously. Like, I don't know if it's if that can be multiple methods, like someone told the administrator and then they found it, or is that is there a way to, like, I guess identify which method?
That's exactly right. What you said, there are multiple ways that it can be. And I think that's something we kind of thought about when presenting it, like in the future, that we should probably disaggregate it between things that are coming from Evolve and then things that are coming from general reports. And then we can kind of get more detailed into it, word of mouth. Sometimes it's a visual scan of a student. And then sometimes it could be, so I do want to also give some background on how this could be. We've had students who will admit that they have something on them, and that still has to get filed as an administrative search, because we still have to follow the same procedures as if we got a security alert of someone having something that is prohibited on our school campuses. So I think with the implementation of the Evolve system, the data is going to look really different next year. But that is a good flag, that is, because we were thinking of that also, to kind of break it down from weapons detection to those other outlier ones, just to not make it look confusing, honestly, because we don't want high numbers, which we suspect may happen next year with the Evolve system. The numbers are going to be higher because of the amount of things that'll come through. And then we'll have to actually probably break down that Evolve data to false alerts or true alerts, to show what those actually look like, because there could be a false alert with someone with a medical device, or if I forget my second cell phone and it's improperly placed, it may flag it, but we still need to add that to our data, because then we get into, We're not trying to manipulate the data to that point. So then we would have to break it down a little bit further in those two categories. So subsequently, it would be 3 categories. It would be those, verbal or visual reports, and then evolve false and true.
And then the last question that I have is that would this include like after school activities? Like
If it's on
something-
school grounds, if it's on
Okay.
school grounds. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, and that's all from me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we didn't have any public comment for today. So yeah, that is the end of our meeting. Thank you everyone for attending. Our next meeting is going to be, I know we don't have our calendar yet, so bear with me.
I think we have a July time, right?
We have a July break. Yeah, so the next policy meeting will be August, maybe?
I believe
Wait,
it's
do we-
August 20th, tentatively.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. This is the last policy meeting for the 23-24 school year, and I really appreciate everyone. And it has been an honor to be the chair this year. So I will see you all next year. Well, in August.
Thanks for your leadership,
you.
Commissioner Zito.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys.
Bye.